Oh, hi there, space junkies. Sorry, I was just looking for my shoes. I have a phobia about being barefoot for some reason this week. Anyway, I am your agreeable host, Scott Botman, and welcome to What a Piece of Junk, the Star Wars podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network. This is episode number 96, closing in on triple digits, and I couldn't do it without the help of my original Wookiee co pilot, our very own Dave Filoni, the man of 1,000 nicknames, Mr. Miracle himself, Nathan Miracle. Nathan, how's it going?
It is going very well on this fine Halloween Eve as we're recording.
Yes, it is the eve of All Hallows Eve.
Yes, tomorrow I plan to dress up as Dave Filoni, so I plan to wear a cowboy hat.
Outstanding. And you know who else is probably planning to do something cool on Halloween because he is a proud papa? Why, that is Mr. Derrick Marsh. Derrick, welcome back to the cockpit of the Drunken Gungan.
Evening, gentlemen. How's it going?
It's going well. So, are you going to take Sophia trick or treating, or did y'all do that already?
No, we're here in Lexington. It is actually Halloween night.
Okay.
But we did do her daycare did have a little fall festival after they quote unquote would normally close at 6:30. So we went back. We dressed her up in her she's a Paw Patrol Sky character, the female dog, if you know who that is, with the jetpack and the helicopter and all that.
Nice.
So we did that Friday evening, and then yesterday, Saturday, the church that we go to was having what they call trunk or treat.
Yep.
Afterwards, so we went to 4 o'clock mass, and then afterwards we went out to the parking lot where there's probably about 30 or 40 so cars of folks, family members and folks that did their cars and decorations, and we're handing out candy and stuff like that. So we did that, and then sat at the park while she played, and they had a taco truck there, so we had some glorious tacos, which was really good. So
awesome.
So we did that.
We just did trunk or treat tonight at my church here in North Carolina, and I lost track of how many kids we'd seen by the time I had given out my 800th piece of candy, because we bought several bags that had 350 pieces or whatever
Holy
it was.
moly.
And so we went through enough bags to where I gave out 800 pieces of candy and then some, because at that point I just kind of gave up trying to keep track. So we had a huge turnout, especially for our small little church.
I was going to say, holy moly.
North Carolina will love you for the business you send their way.
Yes, they will. Yes.
So, but yeah, we'll definitely be doing that, because I've got the main boy that's part of the Paw Patrol. His name's Ryder, and I've got a hoodie. So it's got his whole thing, and it's just easy enough, right? Hoodie DM, that's what it's all about. So Etsy'd it. I'm done. I wear jeans and a t-shirt. I had I've been growing my hair out because I had to spike it. So I've actually had to put gel in my hair. It's been like the first time in like 5-6 years I've put gel in my hair, maybe
That's
even
awesome.
longer than that, since it's been receding back here a little bit. But anyways, did that. And then Christina, she had done one of the Paw Patrol characters herself. She kind of Etsy'd and sewed some stuff together for herself.
That's great.
So we'll do it again tomorrow, and we'll actually get good usage out of her Halloween costume this year.
Yes.
Since we did like 4 or 5 events and stuff like that with it. So
well, at Adaville Baptist Church Trunk or Treat, we did have quite a few Paw Patrol costumes come by, but also I saw 3 Grogus, 2 Darth Vader, and these were little kid as Darth Vader too, which was kind of shocking to me. I'm like, oh, cool, Vader's still out there making his presence known, because in my childhood memories of Halloween, Star Wars costumes were everywhere. But I also did see one kid dressed as Din Djarin, but he wasn't wearing his helmet. So when he came by and I gave him the candy, I said, this is the way. Wait a minute, you've taken off your helmet. You're in a lot of trouble. And he laughed, and his dad had a great time.
That's funny. I did see. I don't know if she's a tween. Probably. I mean, she could have been, anywhere from 14 to 16, 17, right? Somewhere in either late middle school or
Right.
High school. She was dressed up as Princess Leia.
Awesome.
So I did have a classic Leia there. So
Cool, excellent. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I am way more interested in what was happening at Trunk or Treat and preparing for Halloween than I am in the kinds of tasks that our hero Cassian Andor had to do this week on episode 8 of Andor. It was the sole crushing monotony of assembly line work, but not just line work, assembly line work as a indentured servant, as a convict.
You're not a fan of the high stakes game of assembly line,
No.
whatever.
Even worse so that we didn't actually get to be told what we were making, apparently.
Yeah, see, I actually really liked that part of the show, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit.
Yeah, so tonight's episode, we are discussing, for the most part, Star Wars Andor Episode 8, the one where Cassian gets sent off to prison and joins the chain gang. But they aren't breaking rocks or building railroads, which is what we've done with basically indentured servants here in the history of the United States of America. No, they are building widgets of evil. Oh, epic band name alert. Widgets of Evil. Anyway, so yeah, that's for those of you keeping along at home. This episode of our podcast is about Andor episode 8. And then we are going to talk a little bit about Tales of the Jedi, the new Star Wars animated series that also came out this past week. Mea culpa, I've been busy and I haven't had time to watch Tales of the Jedi. So Derrick and Nathan will be kind of spearheading that discussion.
It's okay, I watched it twice for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I stayed up late last night to watch it all.
You guys are more
Past
dedicated.
my bedtime. It was like
Yeah.
11:30.
Yeah. I was up past 11:30 last night, but it wasn't watching Star Wars animation. It was pretty much gaming in Gastonia because we did. I got to the game store yesterday at like 10 a.m. when they opened. Played a game of Warhammer 40K Kill Team. Took a break for lunch. Came back and did 3 rounds of a Star Trek Second Edition card game tournament. And then after the tournament, break for dinner. And then Nathan DM'd an enormous 8-player Dungeons and Dragons playtesting session for one D&D.
Yeah,
Very
it
cool.
was huge. And Scott, remind me, who won that Star Trek tournament?
No one of consequence. Anyway, so
Hey!
moving on. No, Nathan was victorious because I gambled and lost on a bad dilemma play. But this isn't a
Yeah.
Star Trek card game podcast, although maybe we should do one of those. Anyway, this is a Star Wars podcast, so let's break down episode 8 of Andor. Nathan, as tournament champion, what did you like most about this episode of Andor?
Yeah, that's actually a really difficult thing to decide because I loved this episode. This might have been my favorite episode so far, which is saying quite a bit with this show. But I think if I can go with more of an overarching theme rather than one particular thing, the Empire has always kind of represented Nazism.
Yep.
And we got a good bit of that in this episode. So I want to be clear, not saying I like Nazis, but the parallels were very apparent in this episode, starting from we separate our prisoners by you're able to work and you're not. So you are going to the labor camp, basically, and you're going somewhere else. And we're not telling anybody where anybody else is going. Just, you'll never see them again. And then we get into them doing work, but as far as they can tell, it's meaningless work. They don't know what these widgets of evil are being used for. They aren't told anything, and I actually kind of like that because they're prisoners. There's a whole theme of the Empire doesn't share information in this episode. We find out that outside of the prison, people have no idea what the PORD thing is about.
Not the Porg. Sorry.
So that's what I liked about it was the overall theme. And the guards are so incompetent, and yet there's still no chance of escape until some future episode. But they don't need the guards to be competent because they've set it up to where can you go?
Right.
You know, even if you made it past the guards, they'll just turn on the floor. Even if you somehow make it off the floor, you're in the middle of an ocean.
There is no stockade.
Mhm.
No guard tower. Only a magnetic shield prevents beaming. Oh, sorry, wrong.
Well,
In
only the fact that we're in
Another
Star
Star
Wars
Trek.
and not Star Trek prevents beaming because we
Another.
don't have transporters.
right. Yeah, it
Uh,
totally reminded me of Rurapente in Star Trek 6, though. About even if you get out of here, where are you going? Because it's in the middle of the ocean.
well, here's my thing because
Yes, go, Derek. What did you like?
well, no, I was just going to tell Nathan this is how they're going to escape because they're going to get the Super Mario boots.
They looked like Super Mario boots, didn't
They
they?
did.
They did. I just good. Oh,
That,
good
that,
call.
that is what they are. Mm.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that they're going to be walking on the walls and the ceilings, and that's how they're going to sneak by.
And eventually they'll hit a button and they'll get a super pneumatic
Or the-
turbo boost jump.
Yes, or king or the king of the
The
mushrooms.
king of the
will-
Koopas.
yeah, so we'll descend upon them, and they'll have a rope somewhere, and that's how they'll escape through the tunnels. So, anyways,
I kind of love this idea now. I want the somehow Cassian and friends steal boots and escape.
if
Anyway,
John Leguizamo shows up, we've got it.
Now,
we got a movie.
I do think they will end up stealing boots.
They have to. That's the
And,
only
and some of those guards have guns. I don't know why they need blasters when all you have to do is press a button to turn on the floor and you're fine. But I think that's going to be part of the Empire's downfall there.
I'm wondering if only certain personnel at the prison have the permission or the ability to push the button for the floor. And so for those like if somehow, Joe Bob, the floor button pusher, gets incapacitated, the guards do have blasters.
Yeah, but see, that could be part of the problem. Oh, we figured out who Joe Bob is.
Right.
So we took out Joe Bob first.
Yeah.
Now,
exactly.
now what you going to do?
Yeah. It's going to be a firefight and booyah.
But I was going to say real quick, you actually think that one soldier was incompetent? I assume that one soldier was a rebel spy.
Ooh.
Nah, well, there was more than one soldier that was incompetent, though.
Okay.
But because they kept giving Cassian directions that kind of conflicted with each other. One of them was like, step forward and stop. Step forward and stop. Why aren't you stepping forward and stopping? It's like, you can't do both at once. Like, what do you want me to do?
Hop.
Bite.
No, I don't have the boots yet. I can't hop.
Don't have the Super Mario boots yet.
Monkey dance.
Now, it would not surprise me too much if the one who showed up late was somehow a rebel spy and might be a part of however they do the breakout. Because we know they have to break out because
Or do they?
Rogue One happens less than 6 years later.
Well,
Yeah.
and did you guys hear that George Lucas is going to direct the sequel to Rogue One?
Yeah. It's coming out in May of 1977.
Yeah.
If I get in line now.
Why do you think Christopher
But
Lloyd's going to be in Star Wars?
When
They
will
have to go
they
back.
be now?
Oh man. Well, if I may jump in with what I liked most about this episode, speaking of time dilation theory and oh my gosh, when is this happening? My favorite part of this episode was a cameo by Andy Serkis as we just looked up his name. Kino, thank you very much. As Kino, the guy who is like the best supervisor in all of the crazy Nakama 5 or Nakimo 5 or whatever it is. Yeah, well, he thinks of himself as the best.
He
supervisor.
said he was in the top 3.
He's the foreman.
Yeah.
He said our room is in the top 3. And the first time I watched the episode, I thought, okay, yeah, that sounds good. The second time I realized he's in the top 3 of 7. That's not actually that impressive. Because if he was number 1, he wouldn't have said we're in the top 3. He would have said we're number 1.
Yeah.
We know that we're in the top 3 means he's third.
Just above half.
Well, and that's
anyway,
what I love about that.
I liked seeing him because he's such a great actor. And I love the tantalizing, although I don't think this is going to have anything to do with Snoke, but I love the tantalizing idea that somehow Snoke body is cloned from this guy because he was so good at being, a manipulative motivator efficiency guy. And so the Palpatine...
This guy is a clone of Palpatine, and Snoke is a clone of him. See, it's all one line.
Oh, it's like when you make a
Yeah.
copy of a copy.
Also, Jar
Michael
Jar is
Keaton?
the Sith Lord. It's about the same level of theory there.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, I just love that Andy Serkis is in here to give that almost red herring to fans about. Wait, isn't it the Snoke guy? Oh my gosh! Which, as Nathan says, is a total nonsense theory. But also, he did a really great job with what he was given, and there's a decent chance we're going to see Andy Serkis's Nico again in the next episode.
Yep. Well, and that's why I love what I love about this episode, and really all the episodes, is just the detail.
Yeah,
I mean, they spent a lot of time. Like, this is actually, I mean, to Nathan's point, I mean, it's a prison camp, and they got what they do, but they actually took the time to like lay out the detail, like his whole conversation of Kino and Cassian. Like, they didn't have to do that. Like, they could just had him go in. They even have to even have Andy Serkis's character for the most part. I mean, he could have had one or two lines, but they gave him a whole 5 minutes of dialogue. And that was what
Yeah.
Andy Serkis really appreciated. Because if you look at what Snoke had over the entire 3 movies, which really was 2 for the most part, it was like 22 minutes or something, I think they said. Oh,
something
no,
like that.
that's Snoke. No, who was it? Oh, no, I'm thinking something else. That was Malfoy in all the Harry Potter series. All 7 or 8 movies, I guess. He only had 22 minutes. So for Andy Serkis to have like 5 minutes of like basically a 45, 50-minute show
Yeah,
was at least at this point as a side character, that was pretty cool, right?
yeah,
And but this all the detail of like what they were saying, like how they were going through it, and like all the direction, and then making it sound like it was like a legit like factory and everything else, is just those small things that I really appreciated that they put into the detail of the show.
yeah, totally.
And the
Any-
reason Malfoy works, it's the same reason Snoke works and Palpatine worked in the original trilogy. They don't need to be front and center. They're kind of the omnipresent, even when they're not present type of villains. Kind of like some sort of phantom menaces or something.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We can connect that to the back half of the show here when we get to Tales of the Jedi.
Right, right. Okay, so so Derek, was that what you were going to say? Is the thing you liked the best was also talking about
Just
Andy
the
Serkis?
that
detail.
and just the detail and everything that they were doing. I mean, the amount of, like I said again, the amount of detail that they put into it, because I mean, they've put him in now this prison, which is going to be, was basically the whole 50 minutes of the episode, right? Because that's how we ended the last episode. I'm just a tourist. And that's where we picked up at the beginning here. And I mean, yeah, they went back and forth between, we'll talk a little bit about between like Luthen and his side quest, and Mon Mothma and her ploy and everything with her side of the family and stuff. But just overall, I mean, probably a majority of that, 50 some minutes of this episode, I would say 2/3 of it or so was in this prison, right? And they're putting all this detail into it. So it makes us wonder, like, okay, how are they going to escape this, right?
Yeah, totally. Okay, great. All right, well, Derek, I'll let you go first this time around. What did you dislike the most about this episode?
So we have to wait another week before the next one.
High praise, high praise. Yeah,
Yes.
I agree completely because I want to know. There's so many
Um,
questions I have after episode 8.
I mean, while you guys were talking, I mean, obviously I knew this question was coming up, and I mean, just like you guys, I mean, it's easy to pick your favorite or high praise moments. Probably my least favorite moment, and I don't want to go into too much detail with it, just because this is one of our other questions, but that Saw Gerrera didn't team up with Luthen, and Luthen's guy, I can't remember the guy he said he wanted him to air raid attack with. So
I'm just gonna go with the Ox.
Yeah, I like.
Oh yeah, the Ox.
Yeah, I like the way that that Saw called him. The man is an ox.
Yes.
He's like,
And Luthen did not deny that. He's like, yes, he is big, dumb, and strong.
Yes. But probably that, because I mean, at this point, then we potentially may not get more Saw Gerrera. But anyways, that'll probably be my only thing so far. That he didn't, just the way it was. He didn't say yes, I'll come along, because I still feel like we haven't got the true extremist, and we could still see that how Saw Gerrera becomes that extreme, but we still are missing that portion of that of what the other rebel alliance leaders consider Saw.
I'd say, I'll break in just for a tiny little rabbit trail here from Saw Gerrera's appearance. It's interesting that one of his major complaints, about the Ox, he was complaining that the Ox is dumb. So he's like, I don't want to work with him because he's stupid. Valid, I'm sure. Uh, but then he spends a few minutes, seems like, listing out all the other weirdo micro factions of increasingly more extremist separatists that are out there that Luthen and his friends apparently have sort of begun to weave into the Rebel Alliance. And it felt like Saw listed like a dozen different ideas, ideals, and faction names, including one that was like Galactic Conglomerate or something like that, or Galactic Coalitionists, or the idea that every race and system should all be one hegemony. And then he also listed people that were essentially galactic anarchists that felt every system should be its own separate thing and there should be no overarching galactic wide government. I just love the idea that somehow Luthen and the other rebellion leaders are trying to get those groups of people to all work together. Very much reminded me of World War II. Nathan already mentioned Nazis, but let's be honest, George Lucas wrote the whole underpinning in the shadow of World War II and then the Cold War.
And
Um,
Vietnam.
and Vietnam, of course, which Vietnam, in my opinion, is a huge part of the Cold War. And so you had such disparate forces as the communists who had just finished their Soviet revolution in the USSR working alongside former colonial power, or at that time, still moderate colonial power, Great Britain in the United Kingdom. And like those two groups should never have worked together. Like socialists or communists and monarchists should hate each other just by very existence. But here you have Saw Gerrera talking about essentially the two same types of ideals in the Star Wars galaxy, but they all hate the fascists over at the Empire, Nazis, enough that they will put aside their differences to work together to bring down that government. Just beautiful political revolutionary stuff, for unbelievably revolutionary stuff for a Star Wars story, but amazing for a television show in general in a science fiction, science fantasy vein. Anyway,
And that does fix something that's, I guess, not really a plot hole, but a question that I had always had, even as a kid. It's called the Rebel Alliance. And the reason it's called the Rebel Alliance from a real world perspective is because in World War II, you had the Axis and the Allies.
yep.
So the Alliance, because they are the Allies. But in the original movies, you really only see the one section that Luke and Leia deal with, and Han and Chewie and all our main characters, and you don't see all these other partitions of the alliance. So it seems kind of weird. It's like, how are we an alliance? We're just one thing. We're just the rebels. But this really shows us that, yeah, actually, it was a whole bunch of disparate factions, and we did have to come up with an alliance to all oppose the Empire together, because part of the Empire's plan is divide and conquer.
Yeah,
Well,
totally.
and that's what makes Rogue One so great, because you do get that in that point, right? When
Yes,
they're all
yes.
coming together at the war room, and you got the Navy, you got the air, and you got the ground base, and nobody wants to commit to it, right? Not till Jin and Cassian decide to go do the Rogue One and actually go and Scarif does everybody finally band together. But really, at that point, and then there was still sub factions within that, right? But you had these major political parties within it, and that's what real world war and battle and everything is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah,
when you consider them from all over the different countries or planets, right, and galaxies, right? It's not like they're all just poor Ukraine or something, right? So
yeah, yeah. I mean, perfect real world example of this very moment in time, Derek, with
Mhm.
with the war in Ukraine. I mean, look at all the different countries that are helping Ukraine. And then you got other countries that are running interference for Russia. Anyway, that's not this kind of podcast, although I guess it sort of is.
It kind of is today.
art imitates life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. So, Nathan, what did you dislike the most about this episode?
Well, I thought about copping out and saying the shower scene, because it just
Hey, they kept it right. They kept it.
Did not need to see that much of Andy Serkis, though.
I'm glad we didn't see any more, though, as Derrick just
That's
indicated.
true.
Dude's gotten buff though over the years. You have to admit, though.
But to be fair, that scene actually does play into the whole Nazi concentration camp parallel.
Oh, for a second there, I thought, oh, God, they found out something wrong and they're going to gas them. Or not gas them, but, electrify them.
Yep. Yeah, for a brief moment, I thought the same thing. But looking back on it, I'd say my least favorite part is probably the part with Mon Mothma back on Coruscant and the party. Not that part was bad. This is not the part I disliked most. This is definitely the part that I liked least from the episode, because the whole episode was great. I even liked the whole we take worms and put them in the alcohol, and Mon Mothma's like, no, I'm good with not murdering innocent worms.
Vegan. Gone vegan.
Vegan.
Yeah. But then her friend from the banking clan on Jandrella, which I realize is not the same banking clan necessarily as during the
Trade Federation
Civil War, but he took one with the worm. So they're not necessarily totally on the same page on everything.
Yeah,
because I think not taking the worm was very symbolic of Mon Mothma being the advocate for peace.
Maybe so, but I kind of thought Tay. His name's Tay, right? Tay.
Tay Koma, I believe.
Yeah, I think Tay took the worm, and then Mon Mothma's daughter was all like, "Ew, I thought it was, I thought those were terrible." And Tay was like, "That's the point." And so I thought it was symbolic of Tay is willing to take that risk and take on some of the pain, and Mon Mothma is not yet to that point.
Maybe it's a little both.
Maybe so.
So still a scene that is heavy with symbolism.
Yeah.
So not bad, just the least good.
Yeah. Well, for me, mine's much simpler. It's because my least favorite part is that they did not tell us what Cassian and friends were making in the factory. I want to know, what is that, and why is it so important that the Empire is cranking them out by the gajillions? Because if you think about all the rooms there's 7 rooms in that base, but when they were approaching the planet and flying over the ocean, there were lots of those bases. So how many of those things are they making?
Well, I have a few theories on this.
Well, they could all be making different things in each.
They could be making different things. That's true. That's true.
In fact, I think they are making different things because I think they may be making different parts of the same thing.
Star Destroyers.
TIE fighters.
The Death Star.
That too.
Yeah.
Also, well, because we know the Death Star isn't complete at this point.
True.
So those could definitely be things that go into the Death Star. But another possibility that I've heard that I think makes a lot of sense is probe droids.
Okay. Yeah.
The specific piece they were making is the piece that is kind of at the top of the probe, top of the main body of the probe droid.
Yeah, where the arms then dangle down.
Head. Yes.
Yeah.
In which case, if it is that, then the other rooms or the other floors or whatnot could be making the head or the arms.
The legs or the
other pieces. Yeah. And then maybe one of them is even, doing the final assembly.
The quality check, the spray painting, right?
The spray painting. But anyway, yeah, that was my least favorite part. I wanted to know this episode. I'm hoping that Nathan's right and we'll see it next episode, or at least sometime before the end of season 1.
No. I don't think we will.
Oh.
I think we will never find out.
That's not cool at all.
It may not be cool.
That is the Empire torturing me.
I guarantee after next week, if they don't answer it by next week, then somebody will come out, because there'll be somebody on Twitter said, "What the WTF are they doing?" And somebody will come out and say what they're making, right? So,
I hope you're right.
I feel like the show's put enough detail into it that they know that exactly these guys are making, to your point, Nathan or Scott, they're building something. So we need to be able to say this is what they're building if we don't answer it in the show.
You know what? I hope somebody from Lucasfilm comes out and says they are making widgets of evil. That is it. Like this platform is making the widgets of evil. that platform is melting down the witches of evil.
Yeah, that's
That platform is casting the
disassembling.
new
No,
parts
they're
for the witches of
disassembling.
evil, and it's all just
Oh
going
God,
around in a circle, and no one's producing anything.
no.
Well, they said that they kept doubling everybody's time like every so often. Like nobody
Well, they
was like,
doubled it because
Well,
of
they
the
did it once.
PORD.
yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah,
But I'm just saying, but like nobody actually leaves. Like
yeah,
that's the thing
yeah.
about Andy Serkis's character Kino. Like he thinks he's going to get out in 30 days or whatever it was, and
yeah.
but he probably won't. So
It was 245 days.
mm.
Th- There's, I think, two possibilities for him. Either he's going to get killed whenever everybody else escapes, or he's going to try to help the Imperials.
He's a
But
snitch.
because he fails, he's gonna we're going to get a scene of him in his little cell looking at his number of days, and it's going to be whatever's left because more time will have passed, and we'll see it double as he's sitting there.
No, 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 no.
Oh,
Even better.
XXX.
Right. No, even better. Nico will be about to be released when somebody somewhere in the warden's crew will be like, "You didn't meet the requirements. You dropped down to room number 4 or whatever, and to punish you, we're gonna electrify you in front of everybody." And so they do that. He's dead. He's cooked, right? And the rest of the crew, Cassian and his friends at the table are like, "Oh, poor Nico," blah blah blah, and then they're gonna be like, "Here's your new supervisor, Nick A." And Andy Serkis walks out again. Every room is run by Andy Serkis because he's already been cloned because he was the best supervisor they ever had at that prison. So they've made a bunch of copies of him.
All right, so he's basically Wayun
Uh huh.
from Deep Space
Yeah.
Nine.
But
Yeah,
he
which is
doesn't know it. He just
Yes,
doesn't
yes,
know
he
it.
doesn't know it, and that's how eventually he turns into a bunch of Snokes. Because when you make a copy of a copy of a copy, it gets worse and worse and worse.
But there has to be one of them that just looks like Gollum. Then
yes, that's right.
But yeah, the real one is still tied up in a tube somewhere, right?
Yeah.
They've been draining the life out of him all these years. So
Yep.
So that could possibly be. I will add there's a slight thing too that I was disappointed also that like the whole Cyril character, like I don't know, I feel like he was big dude like the first 3 episodes and like the past 5 episodes now. Like
I don't think we're done with him.
we're not done with him, but I'm like, okay, what is the payoff on this character? Like is he going to go completely rogue, or is he going to be like, I'm so obsessed with Cassian Andor, but at the end of the day, I become so pissed at the Empire, I become a rebel? I don't know.
I'm going to go long range prediction here and say that he helps out the ISB as much as he possibly can this episode. And in the finale of this episode, we see him walk out wearing an ISB uniform. And that's going to be part of the cliffhanger for the end of this season.
Okay.
And next season, he's going to do more with the ISB and figure out, oh, we're the baddies.
Are we the baddies?
And then he's going to end up joining the Empire.
Huh.
Or the rebels, you
Or
mean?
excuse me, the rebels. Sorry.
He'll be the
He's
first
already part of the
fulcrum.
Empire.
So
Oh, I enjoyed the fact that we had the ISB. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Let me move to question 3. And I'm going to go first before Nathan takes my primo answer. I actually have 2 answers, but I'll wait for my second one in case either of you guys pick up on it. My primo answer for question 3, what connections did you draw to the rest of the Star Wars galaxy, is at the beginning of the episode when Cassian is waiting in line to be assigned to his transport to which prison planet he's going to. The guy before Cassian gets sent to Belsavis, which is the prison planet in Star Wars, the Old Republic MMO, which means that A, we get a call out to another world from that video game, further legitimizing it because it's so cool. And B, Belsavis continues its millennia-long tradition of being a prison planet because spoiler alert from 10 years ago, if you do the Belsavis story arc on Star Wars The Old Republic, you'll find out that before the Republic used it as a prison world, before the Sith Empire used it as a prison world, a whole different galaxy-spanning empire used an even deeper level of caves of ancient ruins as a prison, and you accidentally open up an ancient prison, and those things come out and start causing problems. So Belsavis has been a prison world for thousands of years and still continues to be one under the Emperor's new order. All right, Nathan, what connections did you draw to the rest of the Star Wars galaxy?
Well, I'm glad you didn't take my primo one, because my primo one is a gentleman by the name of Ruskat Melshi, who is one of the other prisoners on Narika 4, 5,
Nakama 5, something like that.
Narkina.
Nakashima,
Narkina 5?
Narkina 5.
the watery prison planet, is also in Rogue One. So that does, in my mind, change a little bit of my expectations for the remainder of this season. Because at first, when Cassian got sent to this prison, I thought he was going to find a way to escape himself, and it was just going to be him sneaking out. Kind of a nobody notices that one of the prisoners is missing type thing.
Or, Cassian looking out for himself as number one, which is something
exactly
he's prone to do.
But now we know that at least 2 people escape, and I think that really increases the odds of it being some sort of major breakout, possibly with the help of Luthen and other rebels. But at least 2 people make it out and join the rebellion. It's entirely possible that other people make it out. Maybe they join other parts of the rebellion.
Cool.
That's my primo one. There's some other big ones, but I think Derrick might want to talk about them.
Yeah, all right, Derrick, what you got for question 3? I know we took the 2 big ones, right?
No, I mean, obviously, there's just so much that you could just say this is connected, this is connected, this is connected, this is connected. And I mean, my biggest thing is that, especially since it was all kind of with probably one of the best episodes, single episodes within animation Star Wars, when we had the Sith Lord, which Nathan will know because that was the episode with Dooku and everything that happened, and in Coruscant. And there was a conversation that Count Dooku and Yardle have when Dooku finds out that Qui-Gon Jinn has died on Tatooine. So, I mean, spoilers are coming up here for this one, right, Scott? So
yes, that's fine.
So it's a really good turning point and really good, well-written character story through these 3 episodes of why Dooku turned, right? And what is interesting is that Dooku is on top of the Jedi temple. There's an actual tree there. It looks like a birch tree, right? Almost kind of like the white tree in Lord of the Rings, right?
Okay.
But it's got leaves on it, right? And he talks about how it's like this, one living thing in this massive city of construction and steel, right? Of what Coruscant is, basically just this living city, right? And you can almost feel the disdain in it, right? But then we go to the party, which, Nathan said was his least favorite portion of it, but he still liked it. But there's a conversation, right, that Mon Mothma has with those couple of side characters that are talking to her husband, right? And they're talking about the view of Coruscant, how beautiful it is. And it's interesting because it really shows the connection of, and this goes back to the whole conversation we were just having earlier with Saw and the Separatists, and how there's just certain people in the galaxy that just look down upon other people, right? And they just live in this massive high tower and they think it's pretty. There's people that, are scrimping this, are enslaved in encampment and doing all this. And it's, interesting to just see all the different ebbs and flow of the stories of Star Wars that we know thus far, because it always feels like no matter what, there's always war going on, because either one person or one faction wants to rule everything, or there's one faction, or I'm sorry, multiple factions that want to be a democracy. But regardless, nothing ever gets done. Nothing ever seems to get done, which is almost what we have in today's society. But
Yep.
but it's just interesting because that to me is really what connects the entire galaxy together. That's how all these different all these planets and factions and alien species, and it just connects everything. And it just took me a moment there, right, when they're in that high tower looking down and saying how beautiful Coruscant is. While then you have another story that we get to see in Tales of the Jedi where people are like disgusted by it, right? Because it is just this grungy city and they know what's beneath, right? Because we've seen it, right? We know the underworld of Coruscant and everything. So it was just that overall, it was just type deal. So I thought that was, like I said, what connected the entire Star Wars universe for me in this episode.
Wow, that was a really intense connections answer. Good job.
Yeah, and here I thought you were going to talk about the fact that we saw a bunch of Saul's gang.
I mean,
outside
obviously,
the
yeah.
We did get to see 2 tubes. That was cool.
Mhm.
So my secondary one was because Derek is absolutely correct. There's a bajillion connections in this series of Andor because, like he said earlier, it's all about the details. But my second big one was the way the ISB agents kept referring to Luthen because they don't know who he is yet, so they don't have his name. They kept saying he was the Axis. And I thought to myself, oh, how cool, how close that is to the Fulcrum.
See, and I thought how interesting it was that they called him the Axis, but he's trying to put together the Allies.
Yeah. That's good too. But for me, it was almost a call forward to
To Fulcrum.
Ahsoka's code name. Yeah. Anyway,
More on that later. Spoilers.
Nathan, what was your secondary one?
My secondary one was the Saul's gang.
Oh, Saul's gang. Okay, yeah. 2 tubes and friends. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. All right. Well, I will let you guys take it away. Derek, I believe you had question 4 here.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've kind of gotten into it a little bit already, but it was really what role will I made the joke of Snoke / Gollum, but obviously Kino, Andy Serkis's character, play in this series. So Nathan's obviously given, we've talked a little bit about here, but I mean, what do you guys think?
I do think he'll lose an arm and have it replaced with some sort of technological thing that allows him to make sound waves.
Wait, no.
That's Marvel.
Claw.
Oh, that's a whole other Andy Serkis. Sorry.
Don't be silly, Nathan. He's going to turn into a super intelligent ape and lead a revolution on the planet of the apes. Oh, no, sorry, wrong Andy Serkis. So I'll answer.
He's going to get a slice down his forehead right there, right? And cut him in half. And that's how they make the clones.
That's right. No, I'll answer. I think that he will. I think we will see him be cloned somehow in Andor. It may not be quite as overt as the whole a new version of him walks through the door when Kino dies. But I mean, it would be super weird for them to have him come along and play somebody completely and totally unrelated to his other Star Wars character. I realized that Snoke was motion capture and that, not everyone is aware that that was who was playing him, but it would be really strange to do.
Be almost Westworldish, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the first time that one person has played multiple different characters, but it would probably be the most high profile. Because Warwick Davis has
sure, and of course, Tamora Morrison played a bajillion characters.
Yeah, but I'm in totally unrelated characters.
Yeah, okay.
But most of Davis's characters were not as integral as the Ewok.
They were short characters. Never got to play a tall character.
That's true. And Mark Hamill voiced a random background character in The Last Jedi, but I mean that was really more of a cameo in a movie that he was already in.
He also voiced a character.
He's been in Mando,
Rise of Skywalker,
and Mando.
Yeah. So he's done a good bit of voice work then.
Yes. So yeah, it totally could happen, but it would be strange. So that's my prediction as to what Kino is going to do.
Nathan, anything else that you want to add to Kino? You think he's going to be a snitch?
I think that's it. He's going to be the snitch. He's going to be the guy who tries to stop them, but and it's totally going to be motivated out of I was 3 days from retirement or
Release.
whatever number.
Yeah.
Um, it could actually literally be 3 days. I mean, the timeline would work out for that if we'd had enough of a time jump. Because I mean, we had a 30-day time jump in this episode, so we could see something like that. But yeah, I think he's going to try to protect his own position, and in doing so, it's not going to be appreciated by the Empire. He's going to be punished for not succeeding in stopping people from escaping.
But do you think he's going to get interviewed by the ISB beforehand?
For the sake of the story, yes, but only because somehow the ISB needs to catch up to Cassian. Otherwise, like from a storytelling perspective, that kind of needs to happen.
Yeah.
But I could totally see it being like the final episode of Tales of the Jedi.
Just ends like that, right? So no, I mean it.
But we'll talk about that, Scott.
Okay.
So I feel like, I mean, what you guys proposed is probably the most thing. I do hope though, before his untimely death or his death in Clone Wayun version, that the floor does hit at least rank number 1. They will get at least number 1.
Yeah. We want to see what is the maximum amount of pain, as it were.
Oh,
Well,
no.
1 is good.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant
their floor wins.
Yeah, they're
Oh.
Their room wins.
I absolutely misinterpreted that.
Oh.
I thought you meant the floor, the Shaki floor,
Oh,
goes
yeah,
to
they
its
have 3
level
levels.
1, its highest setting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because we've seen the highest setting. The highest setting is he railed himself.
Oh, I just thought that what would happen to you no matter what the setting if it was on long enough.
Well, I mean, he died pretty much instantly.
Yeah, but that was the heated floor. That's different, I thought, than the 3 settings of shock therapy.
I thought that was just the 3rd setting.
I thought that was different. I thought that's like instant death. I don't think the 3rd setting's supposed to kill you.
Maybe not. Well, I'm sure we'll find out because they wouldn't bring up that whole, oh, look, he railed himself unless it's Chekhov's floor now. They're going to,
we're
something
going to
else is going to
levels of it
involved with that. Yeah,
They get the Super Mario boots, they'll be good.
that's right.
So.
Insulated boots. All right.
Question 5. So going back, will we see Saw Gerrera again this series?
I say yes. I say we will see Saw again, and I say that somehow Luthen will get Andor to work with Saw.
I say no. I think we won't see him again, and he's just going to be a one-time cameo. I hope I'm wrong.
Derek, what do you think? Will we see Saw again?
I think we will, because what is Saw in charge of? Ariel.
Being a partisan.
Ariel. How are they going to get Cassian out?
Oh, okay. You think that Saw's air support is going to help with the escape?
Now,
from
Saw
prison.
may not be in it, but we'll probably see Two-Tube.
Yeah, Two-Tubes could be there. Moff could be there. Oh, yeah.
And we did see an X-Wing at Saw's base.
Yep.
Oh, hey, what if Melshi is one of Saw's boys and they come to break him out and Cassian pulls a Han Solo on Minban and it's all, hey, since you're breaking out anyway.
I've got credits.
Since you're breaking me out anyway, I might as well go with you.
Or Cassian will do something and that'll be a life debt.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be cool.
He'll help him some way. He'll take the punishment of something because he couldn't, so trying to be good or something like that, and they'll become friends or something.
Yeah, that could be cool. Yeah. So yeah, I'm saying yes. We'll see Saw again, and he will be working with Cassian somehow.
He'll be the one that has to get him out. So now the question is, do we think that'll be the end of episode 12 by the time they break him out?
It could be, honestly.
Yeah,
that leaves us to go into season 2 with that.
Yeah,
it really could be.
I just hope they don't try to do a cliffhanger of, oh my gosh, is Cassian going to escape or not? Because, duh.
Yeah, I mean, it would be pretty. I'm just curious though. Like, this is my question. Like, okay, what is Cassian's why is Cassian so valuable to Luthen that he would send Val and Sita, right, or
Cinta.
Cinta? Like, why do they need Cassian so bad? That's
I
the
don't-
one thing I can't figure out.
I didn't take it that Luthen wanted him back. I thought that Luthen wanted Vel to tie up loose ends, i.e., kill him if you have to.
Right.
But again, I don't understand why though. I don't know.
Well, but because as long as he's out there and alive, he can tell the Empire about Luthen.
Yeah, but so can anybody else though. So can Val and Cinta and everyone.
But I
else.
feel like Luthen has more deep vetting for Val and Cinta.
His
and
daughter.
Maybe that is his daughter. Yeah.
So. Oh well. Shout out to Lee filling this. He thinks it's Omega. So. Val is Omega. So. But
That would be kind of cool.
we'll see. So.
I feel like it's very possible that Vel could be Luthen's daughter because Cinta was ragging on her about being a rich kid rebelling against her family. And, you know, if Luthen has a daughter, she's going to be considered rich. Because, I mean,
Well,
look
and
at
then
the guy.
who's their mother?
Yeah, who is their
Well,
mother?
Who's
Jango
Luthen's
Fett.
ex-wife?
Did you say Jango Fett?
Well, yeah. I mean, if it is Omega and she was
Oh.
adopted by Luthen, then Jango Fett is the mother.
Okay, yes. Ton Wei. Ton Wei is the mother by virtue
Okay,
of...
yep. That also an acceptable answer.
Yeah.
Yes. So.
Oh man, yeah. No, I hadn't thought about that idea of it being Omega. That'd be kind of cool. But no.
I'm
What
just
if
saying you
Luthen's...
could all be right at the same time.
That's true. But what if Luthen's wife has been killed by the Empire, and that was what set him on the path to rebellion?
I think that's incredibly likely.
Yeah.
And I think because of the way we got flashbacks with Cassian, that we'd learn that in similar flashbacks with Luthen.
Yeah. Yeah. Side note, I loved that Cassian's mom got herself hurt because she was trying to open an old tunnel underneath that hotel where the Empire has set up shop on Ferrix to, quote, help the rebellion take them by surprise.
Yeah, and
What?
and apparently she was a daughter of Ferrix, so I don't know if she conned a bunch of people into thinking she was from there, or if she was actually from there.
She could actually be from there.
What happens if his previous wife is Marva?
Oh, wow. I don't know. That gets a little too samey. One of the things I've liked best about this series is that it isn't showing us... And look, here's the guy that was in Boy Scouts with Luke Skywalker, and he helped... You know what I mean? Like, and here's the girl who went to the same reform school as Princess Leia Organa, and the two of them are hooking up to help the rebellion. You know, whatever. I'm so glad that we're not doing that kind of thing.
No soap
anyway.
operas. Thank you.
Yeah. Ay, Dios mío, el camino. All right. So, yeah. Good questions.
Break.
Good questions. We will take a quick break while I try to compose myself. It's worse than this past week's episode of SmackDown where Jey Uso wasn't feeling very oozy. Yeah. So here's Kevin to tell us about the rest of the shows on the FPN.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here are the other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. Culture Clash, where we discuss the latest in entertainment and pop culture. Blooded Kings, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theater, we celebrate our favorite movies. And Time Warp, our fandom flashback show discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie, TV, and pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Hair Metal Podcast, we cover the rock metal music of the 80s and early 90s. Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, discussing the time-traveling Doctor Who universe. Lethal Mullet, an action film podcast covering the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Also, check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier. The Fandom Show, our Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube show discussing the hottest topics in fandom. The True Believers MCU podcast, discussing the Marvel Cinematic and Television Universe. Union Federation, our Star Trek, and the Orville Show. And we're proud to welcome the BQN Network to the Fandom Podcast Network. Please visit our friends on the BQN Network, a Star Trek universe podcast that also includes your favorite topics, movies, history, superheroes, and more. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. The Fandom Podcast Network is also on all major podcast platforms. The Fandom Podcast Network audio master feed is on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
All right, great. Thanks so much, Kevin. All right, guys, we are back from the break, and it is time for the two of you to have a nice little discussion about Tales of the Jedi. I unfortunately haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but your opinions will help inform my decision about when to binge the series. Side note, quite interesting to see that Disney Plus released all episodes of a particular thing all at once. They're except for Star Wars Visions and a few other minor projects, they don't often do that over on Disney Plus. So that was interesting.
Indeed, it was. Yeah, I wasn't expecting to see all 6 episodes drop at once, but they did, and I was pleasantly surprised by that. That said, with the shows themselves, they were a solid okay. I don't think you need to be in any rush to watch them.
That is faint praise coming from someone such as yourself that usually loves Star Wars animation, especially ones that Dave Filoni appeared to have had such a hand in almost all of them.
Yeah, you're right. It is.
All right. Yes, yeah. I'm right. I like it when I'm right.
No, so one thing that threw me off at first was the order of the episodes. So we start off with an Ahsoka episode, and then we hit all 3 Dooku episodes, and then 2 more Ahsoka episodes. But then I realized what's going on is it's actually chronological order. Because
the actual Star Wars timeline.
Are you saying
actual Star Wars timeline?
There was a animated series that involved stuff happening during the Clone Wars that was shown in an order that was seemingly strange as far as broadcast order?
Well, see, what made it strange was the fact that it was in chronological order, and I'm used to that not being the case.
Yeah.
Especially when neither character really truly, I mean, they do have a little bit of interaction in the Clone Wars, right? But outside of that,
this series.
Yeah, but there was no actual like, oh, hey, and there wasn't even anything with the shows themselves, which they tie quite a bit into the actual movies, which was great, and the show itself, because I'm sure Nathan could give you some great details on those. But overall, I mean, yeah, it was surprising because it was weird because it's like, I was expecting, okay, we either get all 3 of one or back to back, right? What they alternate, right? That's what you would assume would happen.
Right, yeah. So when I saw Ahsoka first and then Dooku second, I'm like, okay, it'll be Ahsoka again. And then Dooku 2 came up and went,
Dooku 2, Electric Boogaloo.
But yeah, it's like we have peanut butter here and jelly here. And normally you've got, you got jelly in my peanut butter, or you got peanut butter in my jelly. Nope. Dooku was not in the Ahsoka ones. Ahsoka was not in the Dooku ones. And even within their own things, this was really like 6 little vignettes that didn't necessarily, it's not that they didn't tie to each other in theming, but there were time jumps in every one of them.
It was a true anthology.
Mm-hmm. So the very first one, we can just go through in chronological
hit them real
order.
quick. We'll do 5 minutes.
Yeah. The very first one is Ahsoka as a baby. Before they even figure out that she's a Jedi. Her family is on whatever planet she is from. The name is escaping me at the moment, but she's with her whole family. They're like farmers, hunters, and her mom takes her out to go hunting. They kill this kangaroo deer type thing. And at first Ahsoka was like, oh no, we're shooting the thing. And then once they shot it, she was like, Yay!
We shot the thing.
We shot and killed the thing. I'm like, oh, okay, Ahsoka, chill out a little, maybe. But then they get attacked by this large saber-toothed beast, and at first it looks like it's going to eat Ahsoka, but of course she's Ahsoka, so that doesn't happen. And instead, she reaches out with the Force and is like, good.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was going to kill her mother at first.
Yeah,
I thought
but
she was going to, but they didn't kill her. Yeah, so
it didn't kill anybody. She's just like, yay, kitty.
they kept it kid show, I guess. So
And came like the village thought Ahsoka got eaten, but then Ahsoka comes riding into the village on the back of the kitty. He's like, yay!
Yay, kitty.
and then the old lady's like, Ahsoka, Jedi.
Something's up here. We think she can use the Force.
And that was it.
That was it. Yeah,
sounds a little bit
just
like
ended there.
sounds a little bit like Grogu calming down the Rancor. You know,
Basically.
Yeah. So then we jump over to Count Dooku.
And we get
we have-
2 Qui-Gon Jinn cameos.
Yes. Well, sort of.
Well, Qui-Gon Jinn, but it's not Liam Neeson in the first one. His
okay,
apprentice is Qui-Gon.
In the first one, his apprentice is Qui-Gon. This is Count Dooku before he even has a beard. And the locals on a particular planet have taken a senator's son captive. And Count Dooku and Qui-Gon Jinn are sent out, kind of like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are sent to Naboo. So they're on a field mission, basically. And they talk to the people who have captured the senator's son and figure out, really, they just want equality and peace. They want their senator to actually represent them in the Senate instead of taking kickbacks and doing whatever. So they end up siding with the locals, and the senator comes out and is like, I'm just going to kill a bunch of people, and you, Mr. Jedi man, you're supposed to serve the Republic, so I'm expecting you to help me get my son back.
do as I say.
And Dooku was like, no, I serve the people of the Republic, not the Senate. We're Jedi. We don't report to the Senate. So I'm protecting these people. And he does so in a way that is very dark side. He ends up almost choking the senator to death with the Force. And Qui-Gon tries to stop him, and Dooku force pushes Qui-Gon out of the way.
Ooh.
So we're already starting to see some dark side tendencies, and I didn't like that. Because, to me, Dooku has always been the guy who was trying to do the right thing, but fell into doing it the wrong way. And this really kind of changed him for me. It means that he's always kind of had that dark side tinge to him. Instead of being somebody who lost his way, he was already starting down that dark path, even before he grew a beard.
Well, maybe this is just showing you that he started down the dark path earlier in his life.
Yeah, but that's what I'm not super thrilled at. Like what I wanted going into this series was to see how he went from I am a stalwart, good Jedi who is always about peace and protection, knowledge and defense, into, okay, you know what, I'm going to do it this way, and that leads me down the dark path. And this made it kind of where he was already on that path a long time before I thought he would be.
I look at this as that because you have to look at all three, and maybe it's a little early, but you have to still think he's a master at this point because he's got a Padawan,
he's got an
right?
apprentice.
So, and I look at it, all three stories really show you the corruption of the Jedi, right? Because that's the way the people were. Like, the people already knew that they weren't going to be a match for Qui-Gon and Count Dooku. So that's why they just said, oh, you're Jedi. and they're like, okay, well, we're just going to basically say, here's the senator's son. And when they find out, or when Dooku finds out, you're right. But I think what happened is that Dooku was upset at the senator. And when he basically, because there was just so many, they were outgunned, they weren't going to win the battle, that he just went to a desperate mode. And I think that's what it showed to me. And he was upset at the senator, though, because the senator had abandoned his people, right? I mean, the whole premise of the first couple of minutes, when you look at the town, I mean, it's like a wasteland, right? And the people there, and the senator's son's even like, I'm not upset at these people, even though they have me held hostage. I'm not upset. They had no choice. Look at the conditions. They're all eating that. And I think that's where all three of them, I can see where this early on, but I look at it that because it's not, to me, force choke isn't necessarily a dark side move.
Oh, no. This was definitely dark side.
I don't know. I feel like it was him just being mad and upset at the situation, period.
No, if this were a desperation move, or if this were
him angry. He was him angry. I'm not saying it, but I don't feel like it was him already having the dark.
No. If this were not dark side, he would not have thrown Qui-Gon Jinn into the wall. Because he took his apprentice and he knew what he was doing. He was like, no, I understand that what I'm doing is dark side. Qui-Gon Jinn isn't going to like this. So I'm going to get Qui-Gon Jinn out of the way so that he's not really here to interfere, because I know what I'm doing is wrong.
I look at it that he was just pissed off, and that's what he did, right? And
anger, fear, aggression.
Yeah, but it doesn't. But see, that's the thing, though. To me, that's where, just because somebody teeters and feels anger, I get that. That's the Jedi, but they're human, right? I mean, it's not like Yoda probably never did that. Mace Windu never. I mean, we obviously know Mace Windu was on the borderline of all that. So I don't feel like it was just. Now, if you're saying strictly the dark side, okay, that's fine. But I feel like it's just saying that even at any point, it shows Dooku doing the things that anyone would almost do. Put in that situation.
No. You put Qui-Gon in that situation, he's not doing that. You put Kenobi in that situation, he's not doing that. You put Mace Windu in that situation, okay, he's doing that.
Yeah, you look at Quinlan Voss, he does that.
Quinlan Voss would do that.
But look what happened to Quinlan Voss.
Yeah, that's another, he fell to the dark side.
My question for you is, at this point in the story, what was it that made you go into this thinking that Dooku had been previously a defender of liberty and a guardian of peace and that sort of thing?
Attack of the Clones. Because when he's talking to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he tells the absolute truth, he tells Kenobi, there's a Sith Lord in charge of the Senate right now. And Kenobi just straight up doesn't believe him. One of the things he says is, don't be so quick to assume that your master Qui-Gon Jinn would not join me. He was my apprentice. And he says it as though he thinks, yeah, Qui-Gon Jinn would be totally on board with what I'm doing, which makes me think that he sees this as right, not as I'm part of the dark side. I think he thought he was using Palpatine.
But really, Palpatine was using him.
Palpatine was using him.
Well, that's all apprentices are.
That is true, that Palpatine was using him, and he thought he was using Palpatine. But up to that point, we had no reason to think that he would become a Sith. Even Mace Windu says he's a political idealist. He's no Sith.
So perhaps when Mace and Yoda gave their estimations of their judgment of Count Dooku and his motives, they were wrong.
And also Dooku was lying to Kenobi, even though part of the whole deal of that scene is that he was telling the truth.
Well, I don't think
he was. I think he wanted Kenobi as his apprentice to overthrow the Emperor.
Absolutely, he wanted.
He's going to lie to him,
but he didn't lie to him. That's the thing. One of the themes in the Star Wars movies is that the dark side tells you the truth. They tell you the truth that they want you to know, and not the whole truth, but they tell you the truth.
And so when Dooku said that to Obi-Wan about, wouldn't Qui-Gon be on my side? It wasn't a lie if Dooku believes it was true. I bet Dooku did believe that Qui-Gon would be on his side.
Yeah, but see, I find it a lot harder to believe that he believes that if I know somewhere in his past he was like, yes, Qui-Gon Jinn, my Padawan, let me knock you unconscious by throwing you into a wall so that you don't see me using the dark side.
Hey, man, it's tough love. As a master, sometimes you got to lay down the law.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyways, episode 3. In episode 3, Count Dooku is a little bit older now. He has grown his beard. This happens right at the end of the Phantom Menace because Qui-Gon Jinn has died. And the first thing we see is Count Dooku in the Jedi Temple in the library.
No, that's episode. No, this is the one with him and Mace Windu, where they go to the planet, and then the other Jedi has passed away. She was killed.
Sorry, yes, I'm jumping to episode 4. Episode 3, he and Mace Windu, Count Dooku and Mace Windu. Count Dooku has a beard now. And he and Mace Windu go to a planet where some people are basically rebelling, and honestly, this one wasn't all that memorable.
Yeah, basically, again, Mace Windu.
I skipped it in my mind.
Mace Windu and Count Dooku have to go investigate because another, I can't remember the Jedi Master's name, is killed. And this planet's reporting, hey, she was hired as this bodyguard of the senator. And through their investigation, I mean, because again, it's a pretty quick episode where Mace Windu and Qui-Gon, upon having the senator and his body as royal bodyguard show him where the crime scene happened, where her death scene, they figured out, well, she was attacked, by surprise because she wasn't, she wouldn't have been easily blah, blah, blah from someone that would have just busted out. So
because
it ends up
can kill a Jedi unless they catch them by surprise.
Yes.
Apparently.
So from someone that they weren't expecting it from, which is what the people you're supposed to trust, right? So here we go. So
a little precursor to Order 66.
Great, basically, yeah. So it ends up being that there's a bunch of these assassin droids, but not IG droids, but just these assassin protocol droids or whatever, that they dispatch. And then the senator runs off, and then his bodyguards kill the senator. And they're like, oh, he was selling off our planet piece by piece while he lived off in Coruscant. We had no choice, blah, blah, blah. So, so it just shows Count Dooku another side of like, I would have done the same in your shoes, but you, quote unquote, did bad. So, and then, he questions Mace Windu a couple times on some things, and that's basically the episode.
Well, and in private, he tells the locals, I totally support what you did. You just went about it the wrong way.
Yeah.
He's like, absolutely. Your senator was super corrupt. In fact, the whole Senate is corrupt.
I'm putting the system on trial.
You might want to think about separating from the Republic. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, AA.
Some sort of confederacy.
It wasn't quite that heavy-handed, but it was very much like this is going to be the system that Dooku goes to first when he's putting together the confederacy of independent systems.
Yeah, the first episode is showing how Dooku could be falling to the dark side, and this one is showing where he would have no problem basically starting the separatist movement.
So the fourth one, which I so graciously remembered as the third one, starts off with Count Dooku in the Jedi Temple in the library, accessing it under the name Master Sifo Dyas.
Oh, cool.
So we
wiping all data.
So we actually see him erasing Kamino from the Jedi files.
Neat.
It was interesting to me that he accessed it as Sifo Dyas, because we never find out in Attack of the Clones anything about like who accessed it. Like there's not a record of who actually deleted that information. So it's not like he needed to access it as Sifo Dyas to cover his tracks.
Well, maybe he didn't know that whoever came along behind him to undo the signature was going to succeed. And so this was his backup plan.
Could be that makes sense. But yeah, he deletes that. And then
We get a cameo by the librarian.
Yes, Jocasta Nu comes up to him and is like, "Oh, Master Dooku, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "Just bopping around, not really doing anything, not erasing any files whatsoever."
I'm certainly not hacking the library.
Yes. By the way, don't search for any planets named Camino. But he ends up going to talk to Palpatine, and this is set right after the Phantom Menace, or right at the end of the Phantom Menace. Technically,
well, it's during the Phantom Menace at the
technically
the first part. Yeah, because Qui-Gon comes back and says, "I found a Sith apprentice or somebody," and the Council doesn't believe me, and Qui-Gon's like, "I believe," or Dooku's like, "I believe you," and so it's literally the conversation is Qui-Gon going up the elevator to see the Council, basically with that whole conversation we see in the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, but then he does go out. Dooku does go out and look at the tree that you were mentioning earlier, and that happens technically within the Phantom Menace, but at the end of it, because Qui-Gon has died, but they haven't had the funeral yet. And he talks a little bit about Qui-Gon and how he loved this tree because Qui-Gon is from Coruscant, and this was the only nature that they had on the planet. And interestingly, this tree we've seen before in the Clone Wars at the end of season 6, when Yoda goes on his vision quest. Basically, he sees an image of what could have been in the past if Dooku had never left the Jedi Order, and they're basically having a garden party out by this tree. And Dooku's like, "Oh yes, I was just regaling everybody about the time that blah 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 blah. Me and Master Yoda did such and such," and it's the exact same tree.
Cool.
So nice little continuity there.
Also, it's interesting that we have the situation where we have now confirmation that is the only piece of nature on the entire planet of Coruscant.
Yes.
So previously we had discussed the idea that Coruscant is an entire city planet, but there was not officially so. Well, I suppose, as long as you take Dooku at his word, that means there aren't any like agrarian zones or other parks.
There's no central park or anything.
No arboretums.
No arboretums, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're in a museum, and that's it.
But Dooku ends up going off to meet with Palpatine. And the timing of this does mean that Sidious was courting him as an apprentice even while he still had Darth Maul. Because it was too soon after Maul's death to have gotten him as an apprentice. Like, he's already doing stuff for Sidious.
Much the same way that...
Like Asajj.
Asajj, or much the same way that Sidious is obviously stoking the fires within Anakin while he still has Dooku.
Yes, yeah. So the rule of two, yes, they're more like guidelines.
Rules was a marketing ploy.
Well, that was the problem that the first Sith Lord had, because there was only two, and that's why he died. Now, if I always have plenty.
So Yaddle ends up stumbling upon them, just like, "Oh yes, hey, Master Dooku, who is that standing behind you? What, a Sith Lord?"
Well, she does track him.
Have you fallen to the dark side? You have. Yaddle was voiced by Dallas Howard, and even though I'm making fun of this scene a little bit, it was actually my favorite scene within the Dooku trilogy of episodes. I think Bryce did an excellent job voicing Yaddle, who does not talk backwards, indicating that this is a Yoda-specific thing to backwards talk to I.
Huh, interesting.
So, Grogu, talk normal. Um,
If I have one request to the little guy, talk normally, please.
I don't think we'll ever have him talk, though. I think giving him a name was enough, but he'll never talk.
if we do see him talk, I think it's going to be something that's set like a few hundred years in the future.
Daddy!
And, or that, yes. But Dooku and Yaddle end up having a duel, and Dooku's basically begging her, "Hey, don't go tell anybody." And she's like, "No, I've got to report this." And Dooku ends up killing Yaddle.
Well, we think she's dead at first.
Well, okay. Dooku ends up almost killing Yaddle by crushing her in the
Entry gate.
entryway to this docking bay, which there's an incredible shot before the entryway falls, because it's a weird docking bay that has a big gear door. It's a circular gear, and it's up. So you see the bottom of the gear with the teeth going in, and you see the top of the gear with the teeth going down, and we get this shot from inside the docking bay looking out, and it looks like this giant grin.
Oh.
And I imagine that being Sidious's grin, because he knows what's about to happen. And the whole thing closes, and it looks like it just crushes Yaddle. But she has used the Force to stop it from closing entirely. And she's very small, so it looked like it closed entirely.
Right.
But she's able to open it back up. And my first thought was, Yaddle, this was your opportunity to get out of there and tell everybody else Count Dooku is a Sith Lord.
Yeah, fall backwards.
You could have stopped the whole Clone Wars.
Yeah.
But instead, she opens up the doors, falls in, and is all, I still have to stop you. Even though I'm so exhausted that I can not really lift my lightsaber in defense as you come. And
Sidious says, kill her.
Yeah, do it. And he does it.
And then the end of the episode is him in his hooded grin and his yellow eyes.
Yeah, and Sidious is reminding Dooku this whole time about, oh, you've done all of this. They'll never take you back. You can't go back to the Jedi. And Dooku's
I'm afraid in your anger you killed her.
Dooku's all, I've betrayed them. I've done all of this with the clones and all. He actually calls out the clones, so they've already set wheels in motion. Even before the end of the Phantom Menace.
Big coggy wheels that will then form a grin when they turn. Yeah.
The symbolism is good.
Yeah.
And Sidious is there going. They're going. You didn't betray them. They betrayed you. From a certain point of view, the Jedi are evil.
Yeah.
They've lost their way.
And then that's the end of Dooku's arc. So we go back.
Well, he
to
does
Ahsoka.
call him Master, so he does.
Yes. So we go back to Ahsoka, and the first thing, I say first, this is actually the second Ahsoka episode. The second Ahsoka episode starts at the end of Revenge of the Sith, and they are on. Well, I guess it doesn't quite. No, it starts there. It starts with the funeral of Padme.
Okay.
No, you got the episodes wrong. Episode 5 is Anakin's running late to somewhere, and he runs in, and there's Ahsoka in the dojo doing training against droids with her lightsaber. And of course, Obi-Wan, Mace, and Yoda are all watching her, and Anakin comes in. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm late." I'm sorry. He's like, trying to walk in like he wasn't out of breath. And Obi-Wan's like, "Oh, you made it just in time." And Anakin's like, "Oh, I thought I was late." And he's like, "You are late, Anakin."
That's a joke.
So, anyways, basically, Ahsoka looks like she's impressed everyone, right? Because she does some flips and destroys a couple of droids, and they make it a little bit tougher, and she destroys the droids again, right? So, anyways, Ahsoka and Anakin go outside, and they're bickering with each other, and Anakin's like, "This is like nothing, right?" And
Anakin
she's like,
pauses the episode, looks at the screen, and is all, "Good against droids is one thing. Good against the living, that's something else."
so anyways, so he's like, I'll give you some real training, right? So it's like, okay, great. So what then happens is Anakin and Ahsoka and Anakin meets up, and of course there's the 501st, right? So you see Rex and everyone, and he's like, all right, this is what's going to happen. So they all form a perimeter circle around Ahsoka and basically set their guns to stun. And he's like, you need to figure out who is going to shoot you before it happens, right? So it's that intense training where they just keep shooting her over and over and over again, right? And you get that montage. She's waking up from the stun, like woozy and everything. And he's like, oh, you're getting better at waking up. Well, it only took you 5 minutes this time.
Yeah, the first time was like, we've been out for several hours.
Yeah. So, because it's funny because the clone troopers are all just like chit chatting with each other, like, okay, back into position again.
Because the first time she gets hit with like 5 different bolts.
Yeah.
So she's getting hit with fewer bolts is why she's waking up faster.
So it ends up happening that they go through the whole montage and she's getting better, obviously. And then she has a bit of dialogue with Anakin, right? And he's like, you're doing this because, if you could survive Rex's team, right, you can survive anything, right? So anyways, and then Rex gives a couple of words too from Bradley D. Baker. He's like, you're getting better at this, right? It only took us 5 minutes to get you this time. So
well, and 2 points here. One, this is actually happening over time.
Yeah, she's getting older.
You see each subsequent time, like her outfit's changing a little bit. The animation is changing a little bit. When it starts off, she's got the shorter
Padawan.
tendril. She's full Padawan, but then they get longer, and she's obviously getting older. The first time it's shinies that are shooting her. They don't have any paint on their armor, but then by the end,
first season Clone Wars.
Yeah, it's first season Clone Wars. And then by the end, it's the 501st with the blue. I suppose it was always the 501st, but they've got the blue paint on there.
Yeah, season 5 before she leaves. So, anyways, go ahead.
The other thing is they are set up in the exact array that they are in season 7 of Clone Wars when Order 66 goes down.
Well, and they're also not in this docking bay or whatever they were issued. They're actually on a docking bay of a ship. Of one of the capital ships, and now she's also got 2 lightsabers. So
she goes from 1 to 2. So that's another indication of time has passed.
Yeah. So
this is something that she keeps doing.
Yeah, they keep doing it, and Anakin's still there too. He's watching her and stuff like that. But they finally go through it, and then basically the whole dialogue at the end is like, it's going to prepare you for what's to come or something. I can't remember the exact dialogue, but then all of a sudden it shows Ahsoka, where we have last seen her besides the live version of season 7. And it's a flashback. Like as she's walking, you could see her like having this memory. And then all of a sudden next to her, you can see Rex. And then you could see as they scan past that, they're on the starship that, is happening at the end of season 7.
Oh, the one that's crashing.
Well, not quite crashing yet.
Okay.
Not yet. Not crashing yet, but it is Rex with bandage on head from we have removed my chip.
Yep.
And we are.
They come up to a front, like they come up to the door, and Rex is like, "Are you ready for this?" And then he puts on his helmet. The door opens, and that's where the whole season 7, where they do the whole ploy, like Captain Rex has captured Ahsoka, and you see all in front of them, as you only see the back of Ahsoka and Rex, you see the entire 501st, all with the orange Tano helmet and everything. Like they all basically have executed Order 66 at this point. So that was a cool linkage.
Yes, yeah. So then we get to what I thought was episode 5.
Episode 6, the last one. You can't mess any more up.
But I can explain why in my mind I separated this out. It almost feels like 2 episodes because it starts off at Padme's funeral, and we see animated versions of that funeral. We see Mon Mothma.
Oh, cool!
There's a cool connection to Andor there, and she's standing right next to Bail Organa. And then we see sneaking through the crowd Ahsoka. So apparently she came and attended.
Bail recognizes her,
but ducked out. Bail recognizes her and follows her. Follows her to a restricted area.
You shouldn't be here.
Yeah, they have a little conversation. He gives her a communications piece and is like, "Hey, if you ever want to get back in the fight, call me." And then they hear a couple of stormtroopers or clone troopers or
They haven't
whatever
quite
they're
got the
called.
stormtrooper outfit yet.
Yeah, they don't have the stormtrooper armor yet, but they're definitely working for
Baddies.
Palpatine. In fact, they're wearing the red, so this is like Palpatine's troop. But it's the same ones that hunted down Fives when he
Right. Yeah.
figured out the whole thing. And they find Bail and they're like, "You're not allowed to be here." And Ahsoka has hidden at this point, but she's like just off screen.
She jumped up on top of the roof because they were like out on a balcony.
Yeah, she moved out of frame, and they can only see what's in frame.
Yes, they can only see what's on your screen. Yeah.
But they tell Bail, they check his identity card, and they're like, Bail Organa, senator from Alderaan, you're not allowed to be here. We'll escort you back. And Bail tells them, yes, I'm so sorry about that, but we all have a duty to do, especially those who are able to do things. Like,
And if you ever need assistance, you know where to call me.
yeah,
the troopers are all like, yeah.
Thanks?
And he just like walks up, don't do. And they just look back at each other and they're like, oh.
No clue what that was
Senators,
about.
am I
He's had
right?
way too much Camino wine. So
That's it. He's put too many slugs in his glass.
Yeah. So Ahsoka obviously got the incredibly subtle hints.
It's that Jedi intuition kicking in.
Yeah. Subtle as a flying mallet. So that felt like an episode in and of itself. But then we have a time skip.
well, hold on. She goes and meets Rex in his Y-wing.
Yes, that is
you
true.
see them take
get a Rex
off
cameo.
from Naboo, and Rex is. I think he said something like, "Did how was it, or did you see it, or whatever?" And she's just like, "Eh." So still conflicted Ahsoka. So
yeah, but then we have a time jump, and she's on this agricultural planet. She's with a few other people who are just farmers. They don't really know who she is, other than she's told them. I don't know if she went by a pseudonym or if she actually told them Ahsoka.
So let me step in here. If you don't, do you know, Nathan, that this was already done, this episode? This
No.
is okay. So Scott, this is the Ahsoka novel at this point.
Oh, okay.
So where it's taking off. So they actually animated the Ahsoka episode where she's on the farmer. She meets it. Then the Inquisitor comes and attacks the town, right? And that's when she decides to step in and save them from the Inquisitor. After she kills the Inquisitor, and then obviously she then looks at the comm link, and that's how she gets a hold of Bail, and that's how she becomes basically Fulcrum, right?
Okay.
So that's the end of it. So
They do stop short of calling her Fulcrum at that point, but it's obvious that that's what's about to happen.
yeah, that's what they say. I mean, but the novel does say that. That's the thing. It does say it.
But
so.
the Inquisitor was, in my opinion, really cool. He, of course, had the spinny blade lightsaber. Which she didn't have her lightsabers with her when she fought him. She just grabbed the handle in the middle of his lightsaber, took it out of his hand, and sliced him in half with it.
Oh my gosh. Nice.
Well, that's because she doesn't actually have them. This is where she takes the kyber crystals from the Inquisitor, and that's how she makes her white crystals.
Oh.
Yeah. And then the Inquisitor himself, once he was defeated, almost deflated because he had this mask on him, so you couldn't see any of him. But he falls to the ground, and then the mask is kind of like and deflates.
He looks like the Shakespearean or the drama theater actor masks, where it's the one with the really long nose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I don't know what the symbolism of that one's supposed to be in Greek mythology or whatever. If it's the jester or the deceiver or something like that, I can't remember, but it probably has some symbology that probably links to why they used that design for that Inquisitor.
I'll have to check it out.
But the Inquisitor almost killed the informant because one of the farmers saw Ahsoka do some Jedi trick, basically saving another one of the farmers from a bunch of falling hay bales. and called up the Empire and was like, "Hey, we got a Jedi here," and the Inquisitor came and burned down the village and was Ahsoka had gone with this other person to sell a bunch of the hay bales, and the Inquisitor was like, "You told me there was a Jedi here. There's no Jedi here." He's like, "I promise she'll be back," and then when she comes back, he's like, see, there she is. You should give me my reward. And the Inquisitor's like, "Okay, here's your reward." But Ahsoka pulls him away just in time.
Wow.
So the Inquisitor doesn't quite kill him, but that was definitely about to happen.
Yeah.
So, well, there's a little bit of controversy with this episode.
Yeah, because it sort of contradicts stuff that's happened in the Ahsoka novel, right?
Well, not just that, but Filoni is now yet again, whitewashed the two characters in this in the novel. So I knew something was off when I was watching this. I knew there was also some similarity. I'm like, this is what we're getting right now, right, with the Ahsoka novel. So I did some research, right? And so if you remember, the two farm people that Ahsoka befriends are actually sisters, and this is a sister and her brother. They're actually black in the book. Here they've whitewashed them. And on top of that, we remember that Kaden was the main girl, the main older sister, and she actually has feelings for Ahsoka. And Ahsoka actually doesn't quite, do anything, but she's kind of got mixed feelings, right? So you could interpret Ahsoka as bisexual. It was actually the first character, well, one of the two first characters, because you had what's his name from Wind Eggs Aftermath. I can't remember the one.
That's
character.
all right. You don't need to remember anything.
Yeah, but anyways, a colored, basically, bisexual or lesbian, and here they go again, whitewashing. It's like, because they didn't have to put any of that in the novel or from the novel into the story, but it basically is like, well, obviously we know that the movies and series override all the characters, so there's no actual Kaden now that is actually canon.
Well,
and that's upset a lot of people. So
I will say that making them not black, that's inarguable, but I would say that the relationship between the sister and Ahsoka is ambiguous enough that it could be read as
there's enough. I mean, there's some degree possibly, right? But like I said, that character being Kaden, technically, that, like I said, it's a whole thing, and it upsets me a little bit, because it's like, it's, all animation. It's like, it doesn't kill you anything. Why do they have to be white? You could have, if you're literally stealing from the story.
Yeah.
Filoni's come out and said it is the same story.
Yeah.
But yet he's gone.
Well, and that might explain why Filoni doesn't have a writing credit on this one.
It's all Eckstein.
6.
Or not Eckstein, but what's her J.K. What's her? I can't remember her name.
Something like that.
Don't remember, but I know
J.K. something.
Filoni was on the other 5 and was not on this one.
It's interesting that comes out, that kind of maybe pulls back from the bisexual angle. And it came out the same week as episode 8 of Andor, where Vel and Cinta, almost hold hands as lovers. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So it just upsets me that they took it out because it's a cartoon. Ooh, Disney. But
maybe
it didn't sit right with me, especially since, it's like, really, did it matter? Again, it's an animation. It's not like you said, they didn't have to go into anything. So it's like, okay, why did you have to change your skin color? They could have just kept the two sisters together. So
there's, I think the skin color one to me is the bigger deal, because that one is
well, it would have said this is Kaden.
A change. Yeah.
So,
whereas the relationship thing, the bisexual thing, like I said, you could still read those.
Like I said, it didn't have to go that far with it, but like I said, it definitely, it basically is whitewashed, and basically, because I don't even think the brother and sister are named the same thing of the two sisters either. They've changed their names completely. So
I don't remember what they were named.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and do enough research. Like I said, I was just saying, I'm like, this seems awfully familiar. And then I go look it up. I'm like, oh, it is from the Ahsoka novel. oh, and then I read this on top of it. I'm like, well, that kind of sucks.
Well,
And,
that's very disappointing to hear because this was actually my favorite episode of the 6.
yeah.
But that is probably due to the
But-
fact that it's from a much more fleshed out story. In this case, a whole
Yes.
novel. Yeah.
Yes, because everything else very much felt like this is a little vignette and not really a complete story.
Yeah.
And this is the one that felt like the most complete story.
All right. Well, this episode has gone way long in the tooth, so we'll jump over to Derrick's favorite part of the show real quick, so we can talk about what Star Wars T-shirts.
I did have one question though, Nathan.
Oh, yes.
About Tales of the Jedi. Was it just me, or did the animation not meet the quality standard that we've been known to get with Clone Wars and Bad Batch? I feel like the animation was not as good quality.
I wish I could say it was just you.
Okay.
I cannot. It did not seem up to at least not up to season 7 of Clone Wars, which I feel like was a little better than Bad Batch.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it was more in line with Bad Batch. So
I didn't think it was that good. Felt like it was rushed.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it was closer to Bad Batch than it was to season 7 of. Yeah, you're right. It probably wasn't actually as good as Bad Batch even. But I think they kind of pulled out all the stops for season 7 of Clone Wars.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know that we should expect. Unfortunately, I
Well,
would
but
love
like
to
even
expect-
Rebels was cleaner than that. I mean, I know it was made for television too. On top of that, but
Yeah.
it just, like I said, just the quality. And I get it. Everybody's understaffed and they're working a lot of hours and they're doing that. But it's just like it just didn't look good to me. It almost feel like it was like almost like very faint color tones. It was very bland looking. It wasn't like lush like you were accustomed to seeing the animation styles. Like I said, great stories, but just overall, I wasn't impressed with the animation. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, really, the only shot that really stands out to me is that one with the gears that make it look like a giant
Yardle and lifting. Yep.
Outside of that, yeah, sorry, but yeah.
All right, Nathan, what T-shirt are you wearing this week?
I am going baseball T-shirt because it's a little bit cooler today, and this is the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back. Unfortunately, was not able to go to that particular Star Wars celebration. Not going to be able to go to the one in London either, but I was able to order this shirt. I'm hoping to be able to order one from the next celebration as well. I'm going to keep the baseball T-shirt theme because I got one at the celebration we went to in Chicago as well.
Excellent.
Derrick, what shirt are you wearing today?
Well, of course, we just watched Tales of the Jedi, so.
Yes, that is one of the 2 Jedi that we got tails for.
Yes, Chippy Ahsoka, good times.
Chippy
What a cute
Ahsoka,
shirt.
And she is the one with tails.
Yes.
Ah, Tales of the Jedi. Oh, I see what they did there.
But she wasn't a Jedi.
Right.
Yeah, and this is actually really weird because neither was Dooku. He left the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
So the name is wrong all the way around.
Should have been Tales of the Gray Jedi or something.
Tales of the ex-Jedi.
Oh, well. All right, Scott, what shirt do you got on this?
Oh,
week?
well, I couldn't resist. It's the day before Halloween, so I'm wearing my classic Stormtrooper helmet made out of jack-o'-lanterns. So, yeah, very much in theme with the Halloween season here. And if you guys out there want to get your own cool What a Piece of Junk t-shirt or mouse pad or coffee mug or whatever, please check us out over at tpublic.com. And normally this is the part where we ramble on about where you can find us and whatnot, but we have been talking for so long, you guys know where to find us. And if you don't, check the show notes. So
That's my bedtime.
That's right. Let me just tell everybody thank you for listening, and please always respect each other and always respect each other's fandom. All right, Nathan, punch it.